Hand clap to all the Mystelics family. You've definitely tuned into these vibrations. I was rubbing my hand because my hand was hitting me right there. Big up all the Mystelics family for definitely tuning into these vibrations to see what's up with your boy on this year reaction vibe, brothers and sisters. Of course, the newcomers are big up on yourself for tuning to see what's up with me. Of course, you want to see what's up? Of course, I react to a number of videos pertaining to the Caribbean people, linking back to the Dominican, extending, protruding, gravitating outward. I was trying to remember Melissa's thing. Gravitating outward, of course, to the international community. Right there, brothers and sisters. We're going to be talking about a number of things. Very interesting. So let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment box. These are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, brothers and sisters? Don't forget to also click the thumbs up button for me. Please click it right now. Click it, man. Or if you haven't clicked it, wait, of course. And then if you agree with my concise, let me know that as well in the comment box below. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment box below. Stop messaging me. Some of you don't listen, you know. Stop messaging me. I wouldn't respond. Write your comment in the comment box below, brothers and sisters. Anyways, with that stated right there, let us get into the vibrations for the day. There's something interesting that I saw, and I think this, well, as you can clearly see at the bottom of the screen, right? The rule is to follow the leader no matter what. Sounds interesting? You will get it in a moment, brothers and sisters. Let's take a listen to what's going on right there. What is going on?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, did you get it yet? Not yet? Oh, let me continue.
13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Okay, you get the point, brothers and sisters. Not yet? Okay, well, let me just show something. So apparently, this person is counting from 1 to 20. And is indicating on a number of numbers that is on the board. With the number that he's shouting out, doesn't apparently to be corresponding with what he's actually pointing to. Very interesting, brothers and sisters. And the rule here, brothers and sisters, is to follow the leader despite, no matter what. He might be pointing on 3 and then say 4. Or he might be pointing on 5 and then call it 11. You then have to repeat what he says. It is very interesting when you look at objective reality. Somebody sent this to me, which is very interesting based on the reaction that I'm actually going to be doing today. And I thought this was relevant. Why? Because you will see it in a moment, brothers and sisters. Just because they are pointing out to certain things, you can visually see that what he's pointing out to is 3, but he's saying 4. And because he says 4, despite we seeing 3, we then have to say 4, even though he's pointing on 3. Huh? Doesn't that kind of remind you of politicians, brothers and sisters? And of course, brings me to this. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters. My hand just clicked something right there. But this is what we're talking about right there. No permission has been granted. This is what he's saying right there. To hold a protest on March 14th. According to these individuals right there, as you can see, not a right in the Constitution. Very interesting that they're saying that this is not a right in the Constitution, but looking at some other thing outside the Constitution to bring their point. They're looking at the Riot Act for them to see if they can prove their point. Brothers and sisters, we have to remember something. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So whatever else laws is written, the Constitution trumps it 100% all the time. And it's interesting that we're talking about the Constitution as if they are the ones writing the Constitution. We'll talk about let me bring it up in matter of fact. Okay, I just got it right there. And this is what I have to say on that regard right there, brothers and sisters. Apparently, these people cannot read, or they want people to believe that whatever they say, despite of we knowing the facts that is being pointed at, that somehow because they say it, then we then have to abide by it. Burn what you say. It doesn't matter if it's the priest or pastor that come and say that no, there's no right in the Constitution for you to say to protest. Lie. The priest would lie, dead lies. Much less for those people right there. Much less for them. We're not saying involving corruption. I don't call in these people name. Anyways, this is the Constitution right here, brothers and sisters. Protection of the fundamental right. Now, this Constitution was written on a merit of a global scale. Global scale, brothers and sisters. So if Dominica wants to move away from the global scale and then pretend that it's not in the Constitution, that lie. That is lie right there. You know lie? That is lie. Right there, brothers and sisters. And I keep pointing this out right there. This is the Constitution of the protection of fundamental and freedoms. Fundamental rights and freedom. Whereas every person in Dominica is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms. That is to say the rights, whatever his race, color, creed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedom of others and for the public interest to each and all of the following, namely life, liberty, security, and the person, and the protection of the law. B, freedom of conscience. Oh, you're doing something bad. Oh, that hitting in my conscience, man. That cannot be right. Freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. And then C, protection for the privacy of his home. You know, people have the right to the privacy of their home. You come in there, stop your dirty ways. Another property, and for deprivation of property without compensation. This is one of the reasons I don't understand. Government can just take your land. Anyways, let me leave that. Let me leave that part. Well, it's right there. Anyways, the provision of this chapter shall effect for the purpose of affording protection to those rights, brothers and sisters, and freedom subjected to such limitations of the protection as are contained in those provisions, being limited or limitations designed to ensure that the enjoyment of the said rights and freedom by any person does not prejudice the rights and freedom of others. So the whole point of this whole thing, brothers and sisters, is that you do not infringe on the rights of others. This is the whole point. But you have the freedom to assemble. Okay? And it goes on even further in that regard when it comes into the global scale. That when it comes, there's more of that. Read the Constitution for yourself, okay? You'll get it. So when people want to come and say there's no right, who give you the authority to tell people that they don't have right to do it? Who give you that right, BLACKMOORE? Who give you that? Who give anyone over that right? Very interesting, brothers and sisters. Anyways, we saw this clip of the very BLACKMOORE partner himself.
If you're walking on the street, a mass, with music, with placards, shouting, "Scared must go," that is a procession.
You're right.
That is prohibited under our current laws.
You must get permission, and the permission must be granted to you. You have to get permission because you will be, if you're blocking traffic when you're doing your stuff, you will need to get permission so that they can block off the road for you. And don't I know this, brothers and sisters? Just recently, we had a situation, well, Pat, rest in peace. I'll actually post that the latest vlog, the last final resting of Pat. I'll put that link in the first comment, in the comment box below. You know what was happening? I met a lawyer there. And the lawyer was telling me, how come they say it's more than 12 people that's there? How come the police are coming to take up people there? They blocked the road. There were still traffic passing back and forth from time to time. But there are people on the roads gathered together, brothers and sisters, to give the tributes and so forth to Pat, which of course is enshrined in the Constitution to do so. The people on March 19th did the same thing, just that they had placards and they wanted to peacefully assemble. The police decided blocking the place, stopping the people from the right to peaceful assembly. That is crazy. And by the way, you do not need any permission from no police to peacefully assemble as long as you're not infringing the rights of others. These people could have been on the sidewalk. They could have been in a number of places avoiding, just like how the situation was with the Pat tribute. Just like how there were people in the streets when vehicle passing, people separate and so forth and so forth. And then they'll go through. It on Mystelics vlog, brothers and sisters. There. All right. So there's the same sentiment right there. But apparently they don't have issues with this one. They have issues with people saying Scared must go. And Scared has to go because, you know, he's not good for the country in any way, shape, or form. So when BLACKMOORE coming to tell people that if you have a placard and so forth, and the people are peacefully assembling, they don't do procession. Because with procession, you have to block off certain areas so that people have to be, the police have to divert the traffic. This is why you need to go and tell them about your, and they have to grant it to you. They cannot tell you no. They cannot tell you no. But they're not complaining on the merit of saying no, they were not gonna grant the permissions or not. They were saying that no permissions was given because it was not a procession. It was not a procession. It was a peaceful gathering, an assembly to let the people in parliament know that they are against what has been happening that would affect them. But it's interesting that BLACKMOORE then used something that happened in Colio on the United Workers Party back in the day. I think it was a campaign vibrations. But thank God Edison is alive. Now, Mama is not alive when Scared lied on Freedom Party saying, oh, they used to bring people and all those kind of things. And Mama say we're not in that. Oh, so we get that one squared up. Blatant lies. Now, Edison is alive. And Blackmore made reference to some situation that happened in Colio. And of course, we're going to take a listen to what Edison has to say. Right, he's alive. All right. All right.
To speak to that.
This is on Matt, brothers and sisters. Let's listen.
Protest action that took place in Colio. During the UWP's reign. I want to introduce Mr. Edison James at this time. Mr. James, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning to you, Matt, and good morning to your listeners. Thanks for having me.
Mr. James, speak to us about what took place in Colio. There was some protest action in Colio. Speak to us, because I know the minister made reference to some, quotes that you made on that particular protest.
Yeah, well, Matt, as you said, this particular matter of discussion came out of a press conference, which was one on Friday.
Right.
One of a kind, you're right. Because it's scary. That is my scared press conference. You hardly seen anybody else come and do press conference. So he's right. One of a kind.
Take a number of other things, not only about Colligo. But Matt, I heard you ask Mr. Blackmore to read from the Public Order Act where it is provided that permission is required for a public meeting. And I heard Pastor Rodney a while ago, and I heard one of your earlier callers say that there is a requirement for permission to be granted for the holding of a public meeting. Bearing in mind that this Public Order Act has been the subject of much discussion in the context of what happened on Friday and before.
Keep in mind, brothers and sisters, the Constitution far exceeds whatever Public Order Act that they deem. If the people have a right to assemble, they have a right to assemble. That is a global right. Dominica seems like it want to go somewhere else with it. All right. This is why the international community is heavily watching Dominica right now. They're heavily, because now they are infringing on the democratic right of the citizens. As long as the citizens do not infringe on the rights of others and the properties that of which they are able to own, as long as citizens don't violate these things, brothers and sisters, then that's fine. It's perfectly fine for the people to peacefully assemble. And like I did it before, I will say it again because apparently people don't listen. I will say it again. Some of you like to skip through the video. I will say it again, brothers and sisters, that you only need permission which must be granted by the police if you are doing a procession. On the merit of procession, you will block certain areas off so you can have your thing on the road. That is the whole point. And it must be granted. Okay? Peaceful assembly has nothing to do with procession, sir.
I think it's in order to put this thing to rest. There's absolutely, and by the way, let me say to you, some people have sent me clips of Mr. Blackmore saying on several occasions that he and I speak from time to time. That is true. We speak from time to time. Because I speak to political opponents or ministers from time to time. I'm not that kind of politician that feels that we must not dialogue.
True.
So I said to Mr. Blackmore before, Mr. Blackmore, there is no requirement for permission for a public meeting.
It would be interesting if the journalists that were there at the press conference would ask him, where does it say that people need permission for peaceful assembly? Where? Anywhere. Where does it say that? It seems like they are making up their own rules as they go on. You remember the first video I showed you? Even though we've seen it, brothers and sisters, we see the evidence that is based on the Constitution. We've seen it. They're not seeing it, but they want to say that there when it's not there.
And I challenge him to read it for me in the act. He's never done so. He's brigade.
So he's never done so. Brothers and sisters, when I tell you we have a set of dotish, I don't call him Blackmore dotish, But when I tell you we have a set of fully done people, brother, I don't call him Blackmore fully done, We have a set of we have a set of Ted Calbas in the place, brothers and sisters. I don't call him Blackmore Ted Calbas. But my God, where you getting his knowledge from? Jonil, are you getting his knowledge? From Octavia, are you getting it? From the education minister, you learning from the that self is it, boy. Let's continue.
All the time. And I was glad that Pastor already mentioned that to you. But Matt, in the interest of public education, you are an influencer of people's opinions and so on in this country. You may not realize it, but you are very, very much an influencer. So I'm asking you, please, yourself, to get assistance and go through the app. And
by the way, brother, as he's talking about influencer there are some people who are self-proclaimed influencers. What they influence? Anyways.
clarify to people that there's no such provision, and it's important.
So why doesn't Blackmore come and tell us, you as a press, where do you see that they're saying that you need permission to have peaceful assembly? It's to have a public meeting. Where? Where are you seeing that? Blackmore, where? And even if you see that somewhere, which I highly doubt you've seen it, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land that protects the right of people. Boy, how these servants believe that you need to come and ask them for permission? The servants of the people is telling the masters that they need to come and ask the servants for permission for them to do what is already given and granted to them by the Constitution. How?
Because here we are, I think somebody also mentioned.
I asked the question on Friday, but he was not able to answer that.
Of course they cannot answer. I was having a little ruffle and tuffle today in a particular area, brother and sister. We were talking about a number of things. And the person made some statements. And I say, okay, you know what? You make your statements. Can you qualify your statement? Can you? And he went on talking to the point where the other person that was there, you talk for 10 minutes. You talk for all 10 minutes. Up to now, you don't answer the question. We continue talking about different topics. Up to now, the person cannot qualify their statement. I leave telling the person that you have not answered what that simple question I asked you haven't answered it. You see, when you don't know the answer, brothers and sisters, and you're making up things in your head because you think that's how things should go. It is not how you think. It's not how I think things should go. No, brothers and sisters. It's how it should actually go. Based on what is written, like I indicated before, the Constitution on the merit of protecting people's rights was a global venture. It has nothing to do with just Dominica. So if Dominica decide you need permission to what? That is not what you see in the rest of the world, brothers and sisters. You don't see that nowhere. But Dominica want to say, oh, you need permission, and they can tell you yes or no.
He was able to answer it, but he did not want to answer it because he knows there's no such provision. And it is a source of concern to me that the minister would insist on being involved in leading the public like that, or at least not unraveling their minds when these misgivings are there. So it's important because a public meeting, if it is that a permission is required for a public meeting, then all this thing about democracy and freedom and so on.
Exactly. If you have grievances with the society, what is happening, and you go into the police to get permission for you to protest, the police can tell you no. Then that completely removes all democracy that we're talking about. I never thought of it that way. That completely removes all democracy. If the people have to then seek permission from the people who are already oppressing them, then that removes every democratic right of the people. Let me bring it back, sir.
A public meeting, if it is that a permission is required for a public meeting, then all this thing about democracy and freedom and so on.
The window.
Interestingly, I was just asking, I having a conversation with Mr. Black.
Brothers and sisters, bare common sense that there we. Simple common sense. Even Blackmore, Blackmore. They asking you, show us where. Show anywhere that's saying you need permission. Anywhere. I know there's a talk about permission when you're doing procession and when you need to block off the road, which infringe on the rights of others. Then that makes sense. On the procession is buried here. Nothing to do with public peaceful assembly. Nothing of that assembly. None of that stuff. The people have a right to do so, as long as they do not infringe on the right of others. Tell me who was infringing on the right of people in Roseau? Not the police barrier, putting up barriers. Wasn't that infringing the right? So they're going against the very constitution that they're trying to hold people for and say that what they were doing was illegal when they're the ones literally breaking the law. And Blackmore, them want to come and tell us, you know that what that reminds me of, brothers and sisters? That reminds me of the Hunter Biden laptop situation. When, you know what those who don't know, go Google it. All right. The Hunter Biden laptop situation. You had the CIA, FBI, you had members of the Democratic Party, you have even Biden himself was involved, by the way. Biden himself is saying that the laptop is not true and not real. They all came out to say that this was not true and it was not real. Then it was found out 2 years later. In fact, people were indicating about 53% of persons say if they knew that the laptop, the Hunter Biden laptop thing was real, they would not have voted for Biden. But of course, you know, it's a killing time business. Push it as long so we can push our agenda. We can push our agenda, and they push the nasty man agenda. Anyways, that's a whole other story right there. That is what that reminds me of. Brothers and sisters, and the ignorance is what they are hoping that people, when you don't know, you see when you don't know, just like when I had the talk with the individual a while ago, he was saying a number of things, and then I cornered him on those things he's saying, because I know he then agreed that I knew what I was saying. When we left, he knocked me. He told me I was becoming a lawyer. I tell him I just help lawyers. I need to become no lawyer. But it's interesting, brothers and sisters. Ignorance is the death of the people. Because if you do not know your rights, if you do not know this and you do not know that, and I was saying you don't have to know everything, you know, but the basic fundamental right, my God, it's so absolutely clear. Let me bring it back again so you can hear. If you have to go and seek permission, that removes democracy right there.
A public meeting, if it is that a permission is required for public meeting, then all this thing about democracy and freedom and so on goes under the wind. So it's important.
But interestingly, I was just asking, I having a conversation with Mr. Blackmore, and I asked him a specific question a while ago. He has not been able to answer, though.
But they cannot answer. Well, this is sometimes simple questioning. When I ask debate a lot of people sometimes, asking them simple, okay, you say this. Is there any proof to what you're saying? Is there any proof? Because I had to go back in history. Real history. Real history. We were talking about the United States and the Indians. Would I tell him there were black people already there?
Because he will not answer.
That's why when you see you don't know, what you don't know. That's why I have a number of problems with people in the Bible and Selassie. A number of Rastas didn't even know things about Selassie. And you tell me you're following Selassie and you don't know things about Selassie. Huh? Sometimes people are following things blindly because they see other people do it, or because that's the narrative of the populace. It is very popular, so they're following because that's what most people are thinking. And saying, oh, the media would make you think that is what is being stated right there. I was fooled by the media a few times, you know, brothers and sisters, not gonna lie. Until I reach in certain areas that talk about wait a while. That is completely contrary to what the media makes you believe. That was a long time ago, brothers and sisters. That was when I just get into media and I realized how powerful media is. This is why I always tell people, don't just listen to what I have to say. Wait on fact, brothers and sisters, because you can have your opinion, I can have my opinion. But what is the truth? The truth is always absolute. So when you're asking people questions, and they cannot answer, or they say, let me not get into, that's what that's what people are telling me, you know. Oh, I not get into that with you. You start the conversation, I challenge you know things that you're saying, then you telling me that you don't want to get into that conversation with me. Really? You start it? I challenge you in what you say. And you cannot back it up. So your only conclusion is to say you're not getting into that with me, or you're not talking politics with me. I was talking to one of my former teachers, man. On a whole, anyways, let me leave that there. Yeah, let's continue.
Because, I mean, one of the things we have to agree is that we must be big enough to admit when we are wrong.
Facts.
We might explain why we did an action, but, you know, so he keeps dodging the question.
And the thing is, I wouldn't mind if you have some sort of answer for it, but you're just not answering the question at all. Where is it written? Where? Up to now, you cannot tell nobody where it's written. But what is not written, you want people to abide by. Really? And they have all the other people coming and pretending as if they know what they're talking about. We already know what is happening, brothers and sisters. They're preying on people's ignorance. So believe that because people will be ignorant, then because they are the ministers and they say, then all of a sudden they will believe because the people trust. How on earth, brothers and sisters, can you trust the government? How on earth? We've seen the evidence of their corruption in our faces. And you mean to tell me that you're going to trust the very people trying to suppress the people's right? Ay, ay, ay. Brothers and sisters, if you do not stand, one day it'll come to you. I remember that hospital situation. A lot of people want to pretend, oh, the hospital is going to affect me. When scare them, come and tell the people that he can send his children overseas for better medical attention. And then point to the very supporters. Ask them, what about you guys? And the people should be thinking, but wait a while, but sir, you are the one we put there to make sure that we have adequate amount of materials, adequate amount of resources in the hospital to ensure that we get the same sort of a treatment that you would get when you send your children overseas. That is what the people are supposed to stand on. And apparently the people don't want to do so. They just want to say, oh, I love a Siwo. I love the Siwo. I get my rum and I good. I cannot build a house for myself. They give me a house, I have to stay quiet. If I talk, he'll ask the country blessing me. If I talk, I might end up losing the house, so I stayed quiet. Where was I?
There's absolutely, and by the way, let me say to you, some people have sent me clips of Mr. Blackmore. We speak from time to time. Because I speak to...
Was not able to answer then.
You know, to get assistance and go through the app and clarify to people that there's no such provision. And it's important because here we are, I think somebody also mentioned.
Well, I asked the question on Friday, but he was not able to answer then.
You know, he was able to answer, but he did not want to answer because he knows there's no such provision. And it is a source of concern to me that the minister would insist on being involved in misleading the public like that.
Misleading? Literally misleading the public. Why? Because they want to control the narrative. They want to make you dumb, just like they do in children in America, making them dumb, I tell you. Hey, last week, they're making them dumb, fully dunce, scat galore in the United States. The education system not doing that way. The very education system. And when you look at the narrative of a number of things that are taking place in the world, brothers and sisters. For example, when they have the cancer care and, you know, all these kind of things that they're raising monies. Raising how much? Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for cancer care for the little ones. And only 2.5% was actually sent. Oh boy. Boy. That's why I like to look on the outside. When I look at the outside, I see a number of things. I'm looking at the narrative in Dominica and see if I see it there. Or sometimes I do the complete flip. That's why about the elections, we see now the corruption happening and we're looking at it happening in the United States. Thank God they throw out all the illegal people on the ballot. They throw them all out. I think that is probably what needs to be done. Different constituencies, you know, you look at the list and say, hey, that person is not there. Bring them to qualify the statement so they can remove these names. That's what was happening overseas. That's why they knew how much thousands upon thousands of people, the very app that they flipped, were then fast tracking. Gasa, let me continue.
Or at least not unraveling their minds when these misgivings are there. So it's important because a public meeting, if it is that a permission is required for a public meeting, then all this thing about democracy and freedom and so on goes out of the wind. So it's important.
But interestingly, I was just asking, I had a conversation with Mr. Blackmore, and I asked him a specific question a while ago. He has not been able to answer, though.
He said, oh, don't scat that in public, Burns. Don't scat. Don't scat. Journey, I said, oh, don't scat. Was Blackmore, don't scat. What happened to baby Sarah? Huh? Baby Sarah still on our minds, you know, sir. Don't scat.
Because he will not answer it. Because I mean, one of the things
you can tell people what people don't. When you see there's a narrative, brothers and sisters, and they leave the narrative, brothers and sisters, and they go somewhere else and people asking them questions. That is the second time they whole scared. The second time. You remember on his train and he said, I don't believe that happened. Something actually happened. That's why he was called, what is the thing the trainer there and partner was calling him? You guys know what I'm talking about. You can leave that in the comments. Starboy of stupidity. Starboy of stupidity. I laugh so much when I see that video. You are scared and scared serious people. No boy. For scared to say, you know what, guys, I'm not too familiar with this case right there. But from my understanding of how things should be, this is what I think should happen. You know, as somebody who's, you know, but he say he don't think that happened. Then the next one, he coming on the media with the lady and telling people that involved in treating. Can you imagine that? And no police don't pick up a skirt now. The police are supposed to be guided by the very constitution that they apparently broke the other day there for the March 19 situation. They still don't go. Boy, I tell you, boy.
Is that we must be big enough to admit when we are wrong.
Yep.
We might explain why we did an action, but you know, so he keeps dodging the question.
But you know, to admit that you are wrong takes a level of intelligence. Because you realize the error of your dirty ways. You realize it, brothers and sisters. But apparently that's not the case. You need some level of intelligence for that.
Okay, so let me go on. The other thing is with respect to the meeting at Maho. You remember he dealt with that as well. And I heard one of your callers this morning say that what I did was wrong. But the story is that the information is that. And
the thing is, brothers, before you continue, black man just saying things. My brother, look at how simple truth is. If you believe something in your head, brothers and sisters, if you believe something in your head, and then some more information comes out, and there's facts backing up more information coming out, and you choose to ignore the facts. Facts is a stubborn thing, you know, brothers and sisters. Facts is a very, very stubborn thing. You choose to ignore the facts just so you can follow your own narrative. Then that means you're just not wise, to say it diplomatically.
But the story is that the information is that there was a by-election, and I heard Bosso talk a while ago. There was a by-election in Maho. I think Bosso was the candidate on the Freedom Party side. And the United Workers' Party and the Freedom Party were in conflict as to who asked for permission first to have a meeting in Maho. We are satisfied the United Workers' Party had asked, requested, had indicated, announced, because there was no provision to ask for permission for a public meeting. So a meeting was announced by us. A meeting was announced by the Freedom Party. There was clearly going to be conflict. If it is that permission was required for a meeting to hear,
somebody would have had it. Simple. I mean, it's simple logical sense. You're saying that you need permission to have a meeting. Freedom Party had the meeting, was going to have a meeting at a particular place. I think it's Maho. United Workers' Party was going to have the meeting in a particular place. That was the same place. So if there was permission granted by the police, then only one would have gotten it. There would not be any conflict. BLACKMOORE logic, with simple logic. Oh my God.
But I think as a reasonable analyst, you would agree that in a situation where the United Workers' Party is in office in government, the Minister of National Security is the Minister of the United Workers' Party administration. The Freedom Party would ask for permission. It's logical that the United Workers' Party would have said, okay, I'm not giving you permission, Freedom Party.
Exactly.
And take permission for the United Workers' Party.
Exactly. The one in power will say, no, we're not giving you no permission there. And as a result of that, I mean, simple logic. Oh, Jesus. Hélas.
We did not do that. We realized that there was going to be a conflict, a disagreement. So what we did, we said, look, there's likely to be disorder if two political parties in a by-election are involved in a meeting in the same place. You will agree that that is not rational to happen. So we decided to use the law, the provision of the law, to declare no meeting in Maho. Not the Maho constituency, but in Maho village. On that day. So the Freedom Party had a meeting wherever, and we had a meeting somewhere else. That's clear to understand. Okay? So that's what happened.
I mean, look at simple logic, Lord. Hey. Brothers and sisters, if what you believe doesn't doesn't adhere to any sort of logic. Any logic at all. BLACKMOORE asking you a question, you gotta answer. You still sticking to your narrative. You using examples of before you don't understand it. Now the people who are actually alive, who are there, breaking it down for you, giving you simple logic and saying, what if, let's say you're right, but it would make sense, BLACKMOORE. You don't have no logical sense behind what you're saying. Because if we are in power and the Freedom Party want to have a meeting there, we want to have a meeting there, we would obviously give ourselves the permission and you all have to go somewhere else. But because they use the laws, nobody could have the meeting there. They had to go somewhere else, and United Workers had to go somewhere else. That is to tell you that no permission is needed for these things. All of a sudden, you guys want to bring it in. And I go in even further on a global scale, my God. The very understanding of human rights enshrined on a global scale. You're saying, oh, that will happen in Antigua, that happened in Barbados, that happened in a number of places. But somehow, we need permission in Dominica to protest.
In the case of Locolio, there was a blockage on the road, and roads are blocked from time to time. It's how you deal with it. You could suffice it to say.
But to deal with it, you have to have a level of wisdom. And I don't think nobody in the DLP Caraba has wisdom, brothers and sisters. They just know that they get an increase in salary, and they know, hey, I get my little money, I get my little free flights if I have to go on free flight, because Skerrit always making noise about his people wanting to always come for free flight. He said when the people looking for all you never there, but all you know when to come for free flights though. Didn't he say that? Okay. So they know when to come and get free flight. On the backs of the very people that they do nothing, they don't do nothing for.
In the end, what we did was the minister at the time, I think Earl Williams, and a community leader in Coligo were at the forefront of engaging and discussing with the leaders of the Coligo community, and resolve the matter.
Oh, yeah,
I would say, and I've been going through my mind as to whether during the time of the United Workers Party, whether there was any use of tear gas to disperse crowds in Dominica. I don't know, I can't remember, but if somebody told me yes, there was one occasion, okay, I'll go ahead with that. But I'm concerned about the frequency with which tear gas is being used in Dominica to disperse people. You know, you had in Marigot, you had...
Let me tell you, all this is just a strategy that they're using. Strategy. Or the Dominicans who might want to join in to the protests and this kind of things there will say, boy, I don't want to get tear gas, now let me step my home. I will support only from a distance. So when it comes down to the actual merit of looking at the crowds, you don't see much people. You see 200, 300, 400 people maximum there. And they check about where are the rest of the Dominican people, because they know that they were going to be tear gassed. They can tear gas the people. Look now, they're infringing the right. That's why I hope Dominican just... But that is sad thing, you know, about the whole thing. Is the state that has to end up paying. Well, all Dominicans, all you that vote for these people there, all you making them do all kind of makakui. Now Dominicans begging for jobs. They have to go to foreigners in their own land. Can you imagine that? You have to go. It's like me having my own house and have a visitor coming inside here. I welcome the visitor in, and then I have to ask the visitor if I can get a little juice in the fridge. That is what happened in Dominica, you know. I, who is the owner of the house, the people who are owners of Dominica, then have to go to the visitor that whoever is in charge allowed to come in. We then have to go to the visitor to say, can I have a juice? Can I have some juice in the fridge? In your own fridge?
We probably twice. You had one down at Kingfield recently. You had one by Macmillan Service Station the other day. You had one by the Port Young Hotel some time ago. You had another one just recently. It is of concern. It is of concern, and I think the authorities must look at what is happening, that we so frequently have to be using tear gas on the people of Dominica.
But it's the same authority that using the same tear gas. How on earth can we get authority when the very authority is the one doing it? How is that? What's going on, boy?
Okay, so that is of concern to that. But another thing that they happened in that press conference, the minister, Mr. Blackmore, referred to the situation in 2017, which resulted in Mr. Thompson Fontaine, Edison James, and Clinton being charged with incitement. You remember that? He referred to that in the press conference. Well, I'm going to say that as far as I'm aware, I'm not only aware.
The man does using examples that himself can explain. And you think that is competence, but it's really and truly. Labor rights are there, really and truly. You think that is competence? Have the level of competence in there?
In the documents presented to us, and to me in particular, in that matter, 3 gazetted officers mentioned that the investigation which they're supposed to have done with respect to that incident in February.
Guys, sorry about that. My camera just filled up right there, man. Filled up. That's crazy. Anyways, let us continue right there. Let me bring it back a little just in case, and let's continue.
That incident in February 2017, that the investigation that were done, they had the government, the police had the input of the impacts people. I think it's called implementation committee of on crime and security. Okay, that is a regional CARICOM body, and they were here for a month investigating with the police. Yet we saw no mention of any report from these impacts people in the documents of accusations and allegations that they presented to us. So I'm asking Mr. Blackmore and the government to make that report available. The report of the impacts implementation on crime and security entity.
They're not going to do it because they don't have it.
Of CARICOM, make that document available to the public. I'm asking that be done. Make it a public.
But if they have it, they would not do it because, of course, they'll incriminate themselves.
Request for that to be done.
Or make themselves liars.
And finally, in terms of my input here, Matt, the DPP has the authority to null pros cases. It is my suggestion.
Okay.
Coming out of that press conference with the DPP's involvement and the involvement of the Minister for National Security, involving what many people would conclude was a trial in the public. And then for that matter to have to go before a jury, not just before a judge. Then
Defamation. They should sign for defamation. Boy.
I'm not sure that I'm pretty sure that somebody could argue credibly, convincingly, that you are going to have difficult to find a jury whose minds, the members of which whose minds are not prejudiced by what the minister and the DPP did. So the DPP might consider that it is appropriate for her to null those cases that are going to go before the court. Okay, because to me, there's a clear basis there. I may be wrong, but it is very, very likely that they have so prejudiced the minds of a potential jury that it will be difficult, if not impossible, for the people charged to have a fair trial.
Mr. James, thank you.
Well, guys, we heard from Mr. James right there when it comes on that situation. But we should be guided by the laws of Dominica. Not some, everybody. Well, of course, we heard Skerrit say, no law, no constitution, not true. What are your thoughts, brothers and sisters? Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Don't forget, brothers and sisters, click the thumbs up button. I would appreciate that right there. And of course, subscribe and turn on that post notifications so you can get the latest vibrations when they do definitely tend to come through. I would appreciate you guys from the heart when I say, be here, brothers and sisters. Salute the king always. Be positive.